Hey everyone, it's Courtney. Welcome back to my FlossTube channel. I think this is video number 12, which is about right, I guess. I started this a year ago next month, so I've averaged one video a month. That's not too bad. It's been a long time since I gave you an update of my WIPs, and that's largely because I haven't gotten very much done. My work has busy seasons, and I've just got out of one at the end of June, so almost all the progress that I have to show you today I've made in like the last week of June and the first week of July, with one notable exception, which is the first thing that I'm going to show you today, and that is my Heaven and Earth design. This design is Dressmaker's Shop by Tula Berger. A lot of you know that the Heaven and Earth Designs Facebook group has been putting out challenges to help you make progress on your pieces and try new ways of stitching in the process. So I've been participating in those this year as they've come out, and the challenge that ended June 15th, I think, was to stitch an entire page cross-country, which means one color at a time, but you had to finish that entire color on the page before you moved on to the next color. And this was new for me. Well, I've stitched cross-country before, but not on this particular piece. I've been parking on my Heaven and Earth up till this page, and so this was new for me, but it went really well, and I'm actually very pleased with how well it blended in with the work I already had done. So here it is. This is 2 completed pages now on Dressmaker's Shop, and I'm just delighted. I'm delighted with how this looks. I finished the second page about a month ago, and I was not stitching very much, and then I've been working on other things in the meantime, but basically the first half of this down to almost to the very bottom of the lamp I had done already in parking, and so I had some parked threads here to begin my page, and they said that was all right for the challenge. You could have parked threads, but you couldn't have any stitches already completed on the page when you began. So I did have some parked threads, and so starting from, I had like 3 rows of stitches left at the bottom of the lamp, and then everything else going down I did cross-country, one color at a time. And you had to be kind of strategic about which colors you chose to do first. Well, I found it helpful to be strategic because the first color I did was this light seafoam green right underneath the lamp, because there was a lot of it on the page and it sort of reached all around the page, and getting all of those stitches done gave me an anchor point, and lots of points from which I could count more easily for the rest of the colors on the page. So that was good. I also I forgot what I was going to say. Can't remember. But it was a lot of fun. I really loved starting to get into the actual clothes in the Dressmaker's Shop. This is a hat and a pair of shoes, and this other hat down here in the corner is the top of a lady's head. So we have the beginning of our first shopper here. These threads are parked from the first page that I did, but I didn't park any of the threads from the second page. And then these stitches, these faint white stitches up here, were left over from the first challenge, which was to do 1,000 stitches in this checkerboard pattern. So yeah, that's my challenge piece. I'll show you the back too, really quick. I thought that this was interesting because it actually doesn't look that much different from the back for the page I did with parking, and I thought it would. I don't know what I expected, but basically on the parked page, you can see some lines through, especially in the middle of the lamp here, where I separated the columns and I worked in columns all the way down. And underneath the lamp where I was doing cross country, there is no such division, so that is a difference. But the rest of the areas where there is so much color, it kind of just all blends together. So this section of the, I think it's 966, the seafoam green, is a perfect example of the way that the back of your work is supposed to look when you use the basket weave stitch, which is the recommended stitch if you're gonna do a heaven and earth design in tent stitch, which is only half of the X, not the full cross. Basically with the basket weave stitch, you stitch diagonally instead of across in rows. So that's how it's supposed to look when it comes out, and that's why it's called the basket weave stitch. It's because it has this woven appearance on the back. Anyway, if you want more information about that, you can Google basket weave stitch and you can get diagrams about how you actually do that. But it keeps your fabric from warping, which is why they recommend stitching that way if you're doing such a large piece like this in 10 stitch. So yeah, so that's my heaven and earth. I am going to participate in the next challenge, which is to stitch a full page using parking, but instead of going down in columns, you're supposed to go across in rows. So I will participate in that. It looks like I could use this next page right here for that. That's probably a good idea. I don't have any stitches already completed on that page, just parked threads and some waist knots here. So I probably will do that. Yeah, so that challenge is running until like October, so I've got a lot of time to work on the next page for this. So it's going pretty well. I really like this piece. I'm excited to get back to it. It's going to be kind of a lucky draw what I show you next, because the next three pieces are all very similar looking in their sleeves. So I will just show this one. Not sure which one it is. I think it's a Christmas Village. We're about to be surprised together. I've made progress on both though. So it's Gingerbread Village. Here's where I am on that one. This is Gingerbread Village by Country Cottage Needleworks. It's an active annual stitch along, so the one house is coming out every month. I'm not entirely caught up on it. I have in my stash the next two houses that will go down here and in these two spaces at the bottom, but I have not got them started yet. I forget which ones. I think I had already completed this one last time. Can't remember if I'd done this one or not on my last video. I don't know. So either way, I'll give you guys a good look at that. The snowman's pretty cute. I like him. This big space and the other one on the other side will be filled with buttons. There's a button with every part of this design. Yeah. I don't really have very much more to say about this one, but it's coming along nicely. So this will probably be the next one I pick up so that I can keep caught up on it. I'd like to finish it pretty much as soon as the last house is released so I can try and get it framed before Christmas. That's my goal. Yep. So that's Gingerbread Village. I'll show you really quick the new houses that came out if you want to see. I have them in here, I think. Yes. These are they. This one was from last month. Gingerbread house number 5. Came with an adorable little holly button right there. Yep, so there's that one. Again, I've been getting these for free every time I've gone into the stitching shop because my mom paid in advance for them. Thanks, Mom. And here's the one from this month, Gingerbread house number 6. This one also has a holly button. This one's pretty cute. I like that the roof of this one looks like frosting. And these are pretty quick to stitch up. So if I just sit down and get to work on them, they will be done in no time. And I'll be all caught up and ready for the next one. So cute. Stitches from the Heart uses these paper bags when you go in there to shop. This is what they pack you up in. It's very quaint. Super fun. And I continue to use them to store stuff inside my cross-stitch basket. Alright, I'll try and show you Santa's Village next. This is sort of a counterpart to Gingerbread Village. It's also by Country Cottage Needleworks. Been doing one of these houses every month, except for the last 2 months. I didn't do one, again, because of work, so I really didn't have that much time. But I got one done. This one has a lot more colors in it than Gingerbread Village did, which I think is peculiar. This one came out first. This was an annual stitch along last year, and it made me wonder if Country Cottage Needleworks got feedback about this stitch along, because they went from having basically a new hand-dyed thread or two with every house and 2 borders on the top and the bottom, and a large size of fabric to a smaller required size of fabric, just 1 border along the top, and the same like 4 hand-dyed flosses for the whole design. So the Gingerbread Village ended up being a lot cheaper to stitch, I think, than this one, because you only actually had to buy a fat quarter of fabric for that one, and on this one I had to buy a half a yard. And also there are a lot fewer skeins of floss. You use multiple skeins of the same colors on Gingerbread Village, and you have to keep buying more of it. But with this one, there are lots of skeins that only appear in one of these houses, and so you end up using a quarter of the skein or a third of the skein on this design, and then you just have some, you know, I'm probably going to have 15 skeins left over, like the bulk of the skein that I didn't use, which I don't mind because I'm probably going to gradually collect a lot of the Weeks Dye Works colors and other flosses that are used in this, but it could get expensive, so. And if this design was only slightly smaller, it could have been done on a fat quarter. It's only barely too big for a fat quarter. So I imagine that might have been frustrating for some people. So that's all speculation though. But I think that more colors in here and it being bigger gives it a room for a lot more detail. So I do like the appearance of this one better than Gingerbread Village. So anyway, I think I told you before that I'm substituting out the color of the windows from 727 or 747, the yellow topaz color, to 762, which is an icy blue. It fits my taste better. But I haven't made any other changes, I don't think. The ornaments on these trees, the red ornaments, were charted to be stitched with this variegated red, this hand-dyed floss. But I just left them in DMC 321 because that's what this tree's ornaments are in. And I'd already had my needle threaded with 321 from doing the holly berries at the bottom border, so I just stitched them. And I didn't think that we would be able to see the variegation that much in them anyway. So I did make that change. Yeah, I'm enjoying this one. But I am a little Christmas out. So even though I'm actually I'm behind where I wanted to be. I did 2 in January, 2 in February, and then 1 each in March and April. No, I did 1 in March. In April and May, I didn't do 1 at all. And then in June, at the end of June, after work calmed down a little bit, I did this one, the Christmas tree farm. So I'm not exactly behind because I had done 2 extras, so I'm exactly where I should be as of the end of June. But I wanted to be further ahead than this because I want to allow for time for framing again at the end, which I told you before. A lot of these pieces you've seen a lot of times now, so it's just progress. Anyway, yeah, so I worked on Christmas Tree Farm and I didn't continue with the next house immediately because I was like, oh, okay, I need to work on something that's not Christmassy right now for a little while. Give myself a bit of a break. So I did do that. And it's been great. I've made a lot of progress on my next one, which you may have seen some of my posts on Facebook about it. If you're in the Stitch Mania Facebook group, I've posted there a couple times. But I've been working on Sing a Sampler by Silver Creek. And this one's on my frame because it's an active work in progress right now. And here's where I am. I love this one. I am using all of the charted flosses for it, which is primarily Gentle Arts threads, but also a few Weeks dye works. I'm pretty far along. I'm very proud of this. When I picked it up after I finished Christmas Tree Farm, I'd only done maybe 3/4 of the sew block and some of the lettering in the la block. But I finished the sew block. I did more in the la block until I ran out of some of the flosses that I needed, and then I started going this way. I stitch all of Fa except for colors that I don't have. And I did Me and Ray and the beginning of T until I ran out of these 2 main colors, which are Sable and Grecian Gold by Gentle Arts. So, yeah, so I'm out of those, so I'll have to get another skein of each of those next time I go to Stitches from the Heart. And there are about 5 or 6 other colors that I don't have yet, including, there's supposed to be a bluebird here. So I'm missing some of the blues for him, and there's going to be a yellow sun here that I'm missing. And I also had a little bit of trouble with my greens for this pattern. It calls for chamomile and deep forest, both by Gentle Arts sampler threads. And let me show you what those look like, because I actually have those. Here's chamomile. And here's deep forest. I don't know if you can tell on the other side of the camera or not, but these are not really very green. And they don't look green to me. Yes, the stem of this flower that finishes out that frame is supposed to be done in chamomile. And to me this looks very brown, yellowish brown. And I think that if I used it to stitch the stem of the flower, it would look like a dead flower. There's also a little field down here at the bottom of me, like some grass and then a flower that's supposed to be stitched in chamomile. And there are trees in both dough blocks on the sides of the pattern that have two-tone leaves, like half of it is a light green and half is a dark green. And those are supposed to be chamomile and deep forest together. And I'm not super happy with how the two of these look together. I'm not sure if it's the dye lot I got. It might be, because in the picture, this is not what they look like. They actually look green in the picture. I'll show you. So there's the last dough block. For example, you can see the greens in the grass and the leaves as well. Those two tones of green are supposed to be chamomile and deep forest. Deep forest is a little closer to what I have, but chamomile to me does not look like that at all. And so I kind of wonder if maybe they said chamomile by Gentle Arts and maybe they meant chamomile by Weeks Dye Works. But I don't know if Weeks Dye Works actually puts out a color named chamomile. But that was one idea that I had, because this does not look green at all. Or possibly they just changed the color of it. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I'm probably going to go back to Stitches from the Heart next time and ask them if I can exchange these colors for some greens that I like. So I have done that there before, and they've been very gracious to let me just basically put these back and take some new ones, you know. So deep forest is okay. I might keep it. It looks very bluish gray to me, and I might keep it though if I find a light green that complements it and sort of brings out the greens in deep forest. I might. But chamomile definitely needs to be exchanged, I think. They say to trust the chart, stitch it anyway, but I'm not willing to trust the chart to this extent. I would trust it with deep forest maybe, but not with this one. It just doesn't seem like the right color at all. So that's the story there. I don't use a needle minder. You see my needle? I watched a floss tube video a couple of weeks or months ago where someone, whoever it was, and I don't remember, made an offhand comment about how much they love needle minders, and they were like, those of you out there who don't use needle minders, what do you do? How do you survive without them? Well, this is how I've been doing it. I just stick my needle through my fabric, and it stays there for the most part. That's what I do. And I have lost them before. There are almost certainly like probably 4 or 5 needles floating around my house that have like fallen out. So I can see why they would be useful. And I would probably buy one. I just haven't gotten around to finding one yet that I like. So I like some of the cameo style ones that I've seen. I might go find myself one of those sometime when I have some extra cash to spend on that type of thing. So, yep, that's what I do. Don't use a needle minder at the moment. Not to say I never would, but I'll give you a closer view of my work. Sorry the fabric is a little slanted. It's a little bit annoying to me too, but that'll get fixed in framing. Yeah. Isn't it cool? Yep, I really like this one. Okay. Next I'll show you, I can't remember if there's anything to show on this one. This is my Sleeping Princess, I think. I've probably made minimal progress since the last time I showed you her. Here's the picture of what she's going to look like. This is a Mirabilia, my first Mirabilia, my first design with beads, although I haven't done any beading yet. The fabric is by Under the Sea Fabrics. It's Andromeda. 32 count Lugana, I believe. Although I should have kept the tag on the fabric because now I'm starting to forget. By the end of this project, I'll probably forget. I should write it down somewhere. But yeah, so last time I showed her to you, I think I'd only worked on skin and hair. And I did start a little bit of the green while I was in Florida with my family when I interviewed them. Or when I interviewed my mom in my last video. You might have watched it. So I worked a little bit on her then, but I did not get very far at all because we had a lot of family stuff going on. So, yep, that's where she is. I can't wait to get started working on her again because she has such pretty colors. But I'm probably going to prioritize catching up on my Christmas villages. I'm feeling very determined about getting those done. And also completing the next page of my HAED for the challenge before I come back to this one. So she'll be waiting for a little while. I don't know. If I need a break, I might pick her up. A break from Christmas. Ah, she's going to be so pretty, though. So pretty. Just working with this green made me pretty happy. And working on this fabric makes me happy. I love the purple. And it's so soft. Lugana is probably my new favorite fabric to work with now that I've actually tried it. When I started working on linen, which I transitioned to from Ada, I was like, this is amazing. I'm a linen person. But I didn't know what I was missing with the softness and evenness, of even weave. So now I'm probably an even weave person. Yep. I have one more project to show you that I've been working on, that I made progress on her. Actually, also on my trip to see my family. And on 4th of July weekend, I told you before that I live in San Antonio area, and so we're in the hill country, Texas, and for 4th of July, my husband and I went with some friends down to Southwest Texas to Big Bend National Park, and we did some camping and some hiking, and it was a fantastic experience. It's about a 6-hour drive from San Antonio, which is already South Texas, down to Big Bend and the Rio Grande. It's named Big Bend because at that area, the Rio Grande makes a big bend, and it encircles the national park on 3 sides. So most of Big Bend is like shrubby desert, miles and miles and miles of shrubby desert. It's a huge park. But in the middle of the park, there's a mountain range that's called the Chisos Mountains, and the mountains sort of form a ring, and there's a basin in the middle of the mountains, and the ecosystem completely changes from the outside of the mountain range, which is just really hard packed gravelly sand and shrubs and bushes that sort of only grow about as tall as me, and you see like roadrunners out there and bunnies and big jackrabbits that are probably like 2.5 feet tall with their ears, and then they run across the road, and when they extend their legs, they just have huge legs. It's amazing. But then inside the mountains, you get forests and lots more flowers and birds, and it's watered by springs from the top of the mountains that come down, and there are bears and cougars in the mountain range too. So we saw a lot of different wildlife while we were there. Anyway, none of that is relevant to cross stitch, but I did take a travel project with me on that weekend. And it was my Brooks Books Angel from the Ornaments issue of Just Cross Stitch. So she's right here on the edge of the cover. Isn't she beautiful? She's called Noelle, a Christmas Angel, by Brooks Books, and she's stitched on brown 14 count perforated paper, and this is my progress on her. I worked on her in the car. I didn't bring her out to the campsite with me because I was concerned about dirt, and we were pretty tired, so we didn't. After all the hiking, we kind of just ate and then went to bed. But in the car, I worked on her. I may have shown you her before. I can't remember. This is probably the 3rd trip that I've taken in the last couple months, and so she's my travel project when I travel. So this time I got like the second half of her arms done, and I finished out her stole, and I made her rosy cheeks. I'd already done most of her skin here, and then I did all of her hair on this trip as well. So she's been pretty fun. I've said before that I don't really like that much to stitch on perforated paper or perforated plastic, and I've sort of changed my mind about that. I don't really like the look of it that much, but I'm stitching 3/1 on this, and this is 14 count, so I'm getting really good coverage. And so I'm planning to because I don't like the look of the perforated paper at all, but I'm planning to cut it really close when it's time to actually cut her out of the paper and finish her. So I'm going to do my best not to leave that sort of toothy edge that a lot of times perforated paper will make when you cut it. I'm going to, file it down so that it's all smooth if I can. Otherwise, maybe I'll bind it off with some matching floss. I don't know. When I'm putting the backing on. We'll see. So yes, it's still true that I don't like the look of it, but I don't mind actually stitching on it. In fact, it's very easy, and that's kind of refreshing to be able to easily find the holes. Like, I don't even have to look, really, because it's so huge. I also figured out that if I leave a very long tail on my needle, when I'm finished with whatever my section of stitching, and we're stopped at a gas station or something, and I'm leaving it alone, I can leave my needle with my project if I keep a long tail, and then I do a couple of like big fake stitches here to sort of wrap it around the perforated paper, and then the needle is trapped on the thread, and I just leave it like this and tuck it inside the magazine where her pattern is, and I put her away, and so then the needle can stay with the project, but it won't fall out, and it won't. For a while I was leaving it like woven into the project, but that really bends the paper and leaves a kink there, and if you don't weave it in twice, if you just stick it through and smush it, that still also bends the paper, and it doesn't let the magazine lay flat. So I just let it dangle like that and tuck it in. Maybe that's not an epiphany for anybody, but it made a difference for me. So that's how I'm storing her, is just inside the magazine on the page with her pattern. And I kept all of my floss and my scissors in this little bag that I have. This is from when I bought a purse from Rebecca Minkoff. Like when you buy leather purses, a lot of times they'll come with a dust bag like this. And I thought it was perfect to carry all my floss. So that's what I've been using it for. Floss storage. So it has a drawstring, but I pulled it out because it was tangled up. So next time I'm going to go on a trip, I'll put the drawstring back in if I can find it. I have a couple of things that I've bought that I want to show you, but hold on 1 second. All right, haul, I guess. I'll do this really quickly. I don't have a lot to show you, and not all of it is very interesting. The first thing is I bought myself the rest of the Prairie Schooler alphabet chart from 1-2-3 Stitch. So they're all in here now. I'll show you those really quickly in case you haven't seen them, but it would be pretty silly if you hadn't seen them, because the Thread Garden is a YouTube channel you can watch to see the entire thing stitched up. She's actually finished it now, and so if you like these patterns, go check out the Thread Garden on YouTube, because they look awesome all stitched up. And Prairie Schooler is out of business now, so a lot of these charts are going to be sold out soon, which is why I bought them now, even though I don't have plans to actually start these this year. So the first book we have A is for anchor, B is for blackbird, and C is for cow. Then D is for drum, E is for embroidery. That's one of my favorite blocks there. And F is for friend, another one of my favorites. Drum is the only block that has the letter at the top of the square instead of at the bottom, which I think is goofy. And I might try to redesign to switch that. I don't know why it would be the only one. Anyway, then we have G is for garden, H is for honey, I is for Indian. I had this already last time I made a video, I think. That was one of the first ones that I bought. Then I have J is for jack-o'-lantern, K is for kitty, L is for leaves. Then M is for mermaid, N is for nest, O is for owl. P is for parrot, Q is for quilting, and R is for rabbit. Yeah, rabbit. S is for sewing, T is for time, U is for unlock. V is for vineyard, W is for welcome, and X is for cross stitch. Of course, that's another one of my favorites. And finally, Y is for yarn. Then there's an ampersand, and then Z is for zinnia. So these are very fun. Actually, I could maybe be convinced to start these if I'm able to get the fabric, because there is an alphabet stitch along I've heard of that it's going to be happening. So maybe I'll try and get in on that and start each of these as a part of that stitch along. I don't know. But I don't have any fabric for them right now, so I'd have to get my hands on that. I am slowly working my way to a full set of DMC though, and these use DMC flosses, no specialty threads in these, so I will. That's not a problem. I don't have to get the threads. So there are those. That's a monster project to actually stitch all of them. I'll probably do it on 40 count. That's what I'm thinking. .40 count 1/2. Or maybe 1/2. Maybe 2/2. It's pretty small for 2/2. I'll have to do some test stitching and find out what I like. But yeah, so like I said, I'm working my way to a full set of DMC. And recently Joann had a floss sale, another 4 for $99. So I went to Joann and I got a whole pile of floss. This is like, I think 85 new colors that I didn't have before. I have not bobbinated them yet, but they're so fun. I bought bobbins to get started on that. I'll probably just do like a couple every day or something. Or I'll just do them all in one fell swoop as I watch Netflix and whine. I don't know. A lot of these colors, first I got all of the colors I didn't have yet that are part of my Heaven and Earth design, my dressmaker's shop. So I'm all ready to go on that now. I'm completely stocked up. Then I got all the colors for my next Heaven and Earth design, which is Josephine Wall pattern, called Alternative Reality. That one was racked to me by a wonderful fellow member of the New Heaven and Earth Designs Facebook group. Her name is Courtney Sands. Thanks, Courtney. I don't know if you watch my videos, but I really appreciate it, and I am preparing to start that HAED as soon as I can get my hands on the fabric. And then I went through also the colors that are in a third HAED that I have in mind to do. It just sounds overwhelming to say a third HAED. That's a ridiculous phrase. But you have to prioritize the floss somehow, right? If you're not planning to buy everything. So I did. So the rest of my floss allowance I spent on colors for Peony Petals by Marianne Broom. So at some point I'll stitch that as well. Anyway, yeah, so that I bought a whole bunch of DMC. And finally, the last thing I bought was a new pattern and floss for a design by Little House Needleworks. And this Little House Needleworks is owned by the mother, I believe, of the lady who designs Country Cottage Needleworks. So they're very similar designs, but a lot of, for most of them, their color palette is sort of different. So anyway, this is by Little House Needleworks. This is called Fear Not, Isaiah 41:10. And this is a Bible verse. And it says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And it says that it was designed for her journey through breast cancer treatment and recovery. And so it has a pink theme throughout. But it's the back of this says that the colors can easily be swapped to match your home. And I haven't decided yet what colors I will use or if I'll stick with the pink. I'm not sure. But this is stitched up at Stitches from the Heart, and it's hanging near the register, or it was when I bought this pattern. And I loved it from the first minute. It's a very meaningful and encouraging verse, I think. And so, yeah, it was sort of, it wasn't an impulse buy exactly. I didn't buy it the first time I saw it, but pretty much the first time I saw it, I thought, yep, I'll eventually do that. So I had some extra cash to spend at Stitches from the Heart a couple weeks ago, and I went ahead and I picked it up. And I also bought a couple of the colors for it, which were green and brown for the hill and the words. Like I said, I haven't decided whether to keep the pink or to switch to a different color. We'll probably decide that later. But this is Classic Colorworks Roasted Chestnut. And Crescent Colors 4-leaf clover. And a lot of you probably know this already, but these are actually the same company. Crescent Colors, I believe, is the old name of Classic Colorworks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that these are older than this one. And the pattern calls for roasted chestnut, but it actually calls for Classic Colorworks chopped chives instead, not 4-leaf clover. And when I was at Stitches from the Heart, I picked up chopped chives. It says 2 needed. And there appeared to be a dye lot issue or something. And I think that, I can't remember which way it went, but my Stitches from the Heart had chopped chives, both from Crescent Colors and from Classic Colorworks. So like both versions of that color were there from the company changing names. And one of them looked like it does in the picture. And you can see in that grass, there's actually a lot of variation in that color. And I liked that. I wanted that. And there was one skein that looked like that. But the rest of them were the other version of the brand. And it was a similar color, but it was much more solid. Not nearly as much variegation as there is in this picture. And that made me sad. I really wanted the variegation. So I didn't go with chopped chives because they didn't have 2 skeins of the one that I liked. And so I actually I browsed the rest and I found this green 4-leaf clover that had 2 skeins of fairly variegated green that I could use for the grass for this project. So I just went ahead and made that substitution. Yeah. So I'm excited about this one. I don't know when I will start it. Again, probably sometime when I need a break from Christmassy stitching. Or ultimately, if I don't start it before then, I'll definitely start it by next year's Stitch Mania, because I didn't participate in Stitch Mania this year. You may have noticed I was kind of on radio silence for that, and it's because of my work schedule. May was busy for me this year. I had a lot of other stuff going on. Next year, it's not actually going to be the same. My busy season will be earlier in the year, in April. So I should be freed up from work a little bit more next May, and I'm expecting to be able to participate in Stitch Mania. So I know that in order to be cost effective and not sort of go crazy with the money, I'll have to gradually gather up designs to start during Stitch Mania next year. So this could be the start of that, or if I can't resist it, I'll start it sooner. But I also don't have fabric for this, so I just bought it because I loved it so much. So yeah, that's it. That's it for my WIP update. That's it for my purchases. Thank you very much for watching. I'm glad that you guys keep coming back every time I post a video. I love that. Your presence, your support, your comments are all very encouraging, and I love being able to share all of this with you. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some good stitching done while you were watching me this time. I hope you continue to enjoy yourself. Until next time, happy stitching.